Hi everybody, I'm Zach and I like movies, and I am back again for another entry in my Letterboxd Criterion Challenge for 2024. And today's prompt is number 18, which was to watch a movie from their Dreaming of a Hollywood Movie Marathon selection for this challenge. And I went with a low-budget indie film from 1990 and was the directorial debut from writer-director Whit Stillman. This is a film called Metropolitan. And it is a holiday movie, actually. It's set in Christmas time in Manhattan, and it's focusing on a sort of a group of friends who are young upper-class debutantes. And we're just following them and their very many varied conversations and like little kind of after parties, and it's just a very basic, simple. Simple indie film, filmed in a comforting, fuzzy graininess, mostly free of a plot outside of, excluding a cute little romance. And we mostly follow one boy, Tom Townsend, who kind of accidentally gets mixed up with this group. And you see how he gets mixed up because he has resentment. He has resentment towards this sort of class, but also is drawn to them as well. And we find out kind of early on that there was a bit of a mix-up because Tom Townsend is from the west side of Manhattan and he is upper middle class. Yes. and it is kind of funny they have, because like most of the time you just see Tom in these like rented suits and at these debutante parties, but when you see him at home, he's just kind of schlubbing it up in his bathrobe. But anyway, yeah, it's this is a film that's mostly just about these young people at these parties and their conversations. This is a real talky movie. It's just about the conversations, and the dialogue here it's very interesting because the closest I could maybe describe it as is Richard Linklater by way of Wes Anderson. I hope that makes sense because this is just it's just about the conversations and it's not like Linklater whose dialogue generally in especially like movies like Days Confused and the Before trilogy tries to capture the natural rhythms of human speech. This is very very dry sardonic wit, and it's not quite playwrighty, but you can tell that there is it's definitely going for something that's not quite natural. It's kind of hard to describe, but also it's honestly pretty quotable too. And again, there's a lot of variety in what they talk about, and it's also kind of sort of taking lovely nudges, lovely digs at this sort of upper Manhattan style, this upper Manhattan sort of socialite scene, and because Tom, he would have this conversation with one of the girls, Audrey, and she would she's talking to him about she's an avid reader, and she's talking about these Jane Austen novels that she's read, and he says that he doesn't read novels. I don't read novels. I prefer literary criticism. That way you get both the critics' ideas as well as the authors. And it's like, oh my God, God. Whit Stillman predicted 90% of the internet hot takes. Holy shit! There's you get stuff about literature. They wax poetically about religion. There's a great back and forth about the hypocrisy of the surrealist movement. That film by Buñuel, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. I went and saw it. I thought, finally somebody to tell the truth about the bourgeoisie. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. Absolute disgusting for the surrealism. They debate their preferred economic theory. Like Tom, one of the first ways that he kind of marks himself as as a standout of the group when he's first dragged in, is that he says he's committed socialist, but not a Marxist. I favor the socialist model developed by the 19th century French social critic Charles Fourier. You're a Fourierist, just and I gotta say, some of these performances, they're sometimes you can tell that they're definitely first timers, and even the way that Stillman directs it and how it's just sort of put together, it definitely does feel like first movie, but there's a lot of ingenuity in that way. Like, this is a movie that was made for little over 200 grand, which is dirt cheap when it comes to making movies. They filmed a lot of the interiors in like various townhouses that they kind of just dressed up to look like Park Avenue apartments. And some of these were even for their apartments of friends and parents of the crew, which was also the first movie. Like, it was the first movie of like the cinematographer and the editor, which I actually really liked. I really liked the editing here. It's like a 99-ish minute movie, and it with most of these conversations just sort of like coming in and out about various days, various nights, I should say. There's a lot of ways that you could make that sort of. There's a lot of ways that could go wrong. It could just be stale and boring, especially when a lot of this is kind of some of these are primarily told in just like clean singles. But one thing I really liked is that there is a lot of confidence in the camera work. Like, I like a lot of the sort of like warm tungsten lighting of these interiors, but also since most of these scenes are almost exclusively in static shots, Stillman has the actors sort of stay strategically within the shot, in frame, and like sort of further out of the frame, and sort of and kept up the pacing through this editing. And I think it goes to show that he really did have solid foundation of a solid eye, despite any limitations. And I also like the in terms of the editing, there's actually a really interesting, really clever trick they do to sort of fake these debutante balls that they have. Is that they would have the actors walk out of actual glamorous New York townhouses, and the editing would lead but we never see them walk out of the interior out the door. They just sort of we just sort of cut to them outside, or cut to them walking out the door or hailing a cab. And it's the editing that leads us to believe that these separate interiors match the exteriors, and it's just kind of that clean trick of the editing forcing our minds to fill in the gaps. That's really clever, and that's really good independent film ingenuity that you need. I also have to give sorry. I also have to give credit to a lot of these actors, especially Chris Eigeman, who plays the character Nick in the movie, who's kind of this guy. He's kind of this guy. He's definitely like of the group. There is a nice group. There's Tom, who's kind of like trying to put on airs. There's Audrey, who's she's sweet and nice, who's obviously has a crush on him. There's actually like a bit of a tender moment when she's at Sunday Mass, and she's like is like so overcome by like feelings and like frustration with like her crush, or unresolved, unrequited feelings for Nick, for Tom, and she's crying at Sunday Mass, and it's like, oh God, Tom, what are you doing to this poor girl? There's also there's a girl Cynthia and Nick, but there's also, I want to say his name is Fred. I kind of forget. He's like one of the other guys at the party, but he's mostly just kind of like sitting. He's mostly just kind of sitting, keeping to himself, looking kind of basically exhausted most of the time. And there's also even occasionally is comes in Tom's ex-girlfriend. What was her name? I have it in my in my notes. Damn it! I lost track of my Serena, yeah, Serena, and also but anyway, Chris Eigeman plays Nick. He's definitely the one who's like something of a shit stirrer. He like definitely he's like goading Tom a lot of the time, especially goading a lot of the other girls. He's goading like he like kind of gives another guy grief because who also has a crush on Audrey, but doesn't want to say anything. And he's like Eigeman really nails the kind of tone and rhythms of this very blunt, very dry dialogue I'm a little disappointed that he didn't really have that big of a career outside of some of Stillman's other works. This was like the first of a trilogy of these kind of like socialite comedy of manners that Stillman made. It was this, then his second movie Barcelona, and then The Last Days of the Disco. And Eigeman's in all of them, and Eigeman here honestly kind of steals so much of the movie. He kind of runs away with the movie. Like there's a point where Nick leaves Manhattan. He just kind of exits the film, and kind of takes the movie with him. It really feels and like the rest of the movie. The group sort of like further disbands from there, and we see how a lot of these like a lot of how Tom and some of the other some of these other characters have to like really adjust to these new this new like dynamic, and he almost can't really, and it's like how it honestly did remind me in a way about how, you know, it honestly did remind me of my own days in college. You know, I made friends, I found my friend group, and I would just want nothing more than to just like, you know, talk and hang out with them and just, you know, enjoy their company all the time. But time passes, and eventually we just sort of drift apart, and I miss them. And it felt like that sort of coming of age tale about trying to find yourself and really find the real friends amongst the party, which I feel like which is sort of my big takeaway from Metropolitan. And again, while I don't think I was like crazy in love with this movie, like I think I've seen a lot of people like really love it, like they really respond well to it, but I think it's a movie I appreciate more than I like. But I do want to check out Stillman's other movies. I think I'll really I think now that he's sort of proved, now that I have like a feel of what to expect with his movies, and I think now that with the other ones he's working with a bigger budget and has more experienced movie making and stuff, there's probably going to be a better. I'm probably going to respond better to like Barcelona and Last Days of the Disco. But I would recommend this. It's a nice movie. It's kind of tender. It's kind of cozy a little. It's also a quotable movie. And I really like Eigeman in this. He has this monologue where he talks about this guy, Rick von Sleneker, this guy that you see a couple times with this really bad a bit of a bad rat's nest ponytail. And he goes on this appalling story about a girl named Polly Perkins, who's like this horse girl from Virginia and wore the same blue coat. She would be silent for hours and then talk obsessively about Paul McCartney. And she got involved with Slonaker, who convinced her to pull in a train. And then about 2 weeks she went into treatment, and then she went to the Staples and killed herself. And they're like, "Oh my God, it's terrible." And it's like, "Oh my God, that's terrible." But no, he just made her up. There is no Polly Perkins. he just did it for the satisfaction of showing up Cynthia, and just for the satisfaction of knowing that he caught her in a lie. And that's the kind of guy Nick is. And it's really fun. No, there is factual basis. Polly Perkins is a composite character, like the New York Magazine does. kind of dig it. So this is if you can find a taste for like this kind of like talky film, if you if you don't find these sort of preppy kids annoying, or just you don't want anything to do with them, I understand, but I recommend it. I think it's a good time. I definitely enjoyed myself, even if I didn't love it, which sometimes that happens. And I think that'll be it. This is sort of not too much to say, but also kind of a bit to say, which, yeah, I'm impressed. I kind of liked it. Yeah. And yeah, I think that'll be it. My name is Zach. I like movies. I have a lot more movies to watch. I have had quite a week, but looking forward to more movies to watch to make the week better. So I think that'll be it, and I will see you all next time. Take care of yourselves.